Federalism, National versus State Powers. This is the second lecture that is part of our topic of federalism. In this part, we are going to look at the complex politics of gay marriage, a perfect topic to evaluate the powers given to a state versus the powers given to the federal government. Assume for a second that I'm traveling with my fiancé to Las Vegas to get married. We return from Las Vegas with a marriage license issued by the state of Nevada. Am I legally married in Pennsylvania? Yeah, I am. But why? What is the legal framework for this? For this, you would look at Article 4 of the U.S. Constitution, the Full Faith and Credit Clause. The Full Faith and Credit Clause posits that full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of every other state. So you travel from Pennsylvania to Florida, you drive your car, your driver's license is valid in other states. Your grandfather dies in Florida, the death certificate issued by a doctor in Florida, valid in Pennsylvania. People get married, move, divorce, get married again. While moving from state to state, the Full Faith and Credit Clause posits that those documents are to be also recognized by all other states. Imagine how complex our lives would be without the Full Faith and Credit Clause. But how about gay marriages? Now take the hypothetical case of a gay couple living in Massachusetts, a state that grants gay marriage, and for job-related reasons, our hypothetical gay couple has to move from Massachusetts to Pennsylvania or Alabama or Mississippi or Tennessee. States, examples of states that do not grant gay marriage. Are they married in these states? Are they considered to be legally married in these states? Yes or no? Should they consider to be legally married in those states, although those states do not grant gay marriages? Let's start to look at the benefits associated with marriage. Yes, more than half of all marriages end in divorce, but their marriage is still a desirable institution, and there are many benefits associated with marriage. Among them, greater feelings of social inclusion, psychological and health benefits, especially for married men, more so than for married women. Married men are healthier than their never married, divorced, or widowed counterparts. And economically speaking, marriage offers more than 1,100 federal benefits and responsibilities, not including hundreds more offered by every state. The link here, which you can peruse at your own leisure, offers you a more detailed overview of the kind of benefits federal and state offered to married couples. So what is the legal framework? Back to my question, is this gay couple married in Pennsylvania or not? Until 2013, the Federal Defense of Marriage Act prohibited gay couples from receiving any federal benefits. DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, was passed by Congress in the mid-1990s, and it defined marriage as a union between a male and a female spouse. Thus, unions between two males or two females were not recognized as a marriage. As a result of DOMA, gay couples did not receive any federal benefits. What about state benefits? State benefits were only granted in the states which allowed gay marriages. So prior to 2013, our gay couple would have received Massachusetts state benefits while residing in Massachusetts, no federal benefits. After moving to Pennsylvania, they would have lost the state benefits because Pennsylvania does not grant gay marriage, and they did not have federal benefits to begin with. This changed in 2013. Interesting Supreme Court decision, United States v. Windsor. That is the case of a lesbian couple, Edith Windsor and Thea Spire. They lived together in New York for 44 years and married in Canada in 2007. Thea Spire died in 2009, and her partner, her spouse, Edith Windsor, was hit with more than $360,000 in federal estate taxes. Had the couple been considered by the federal government to be married, Windsor would not have incurred those taxes. So we are talking about real economic benefits which are at stake here. In 2013, the federal government, in 2013, the Supreme Court struck down DOMA. Justice Kennedy argued that the act wrote inequality into federal law and violated the Fifth Amendment's protection of equal liberty. However, gay couples are only now eligible for federal benefits. Depending on the state, they might not receive state benefits. The map below, which again you can click at your own leisure, gives you a more detailed picture about the states that grant gay marriage versus those which don't. What you see here are just a couple of pictures of Windsor and Spire to add a little bit of the human story to the Supreme Court decision. So the politics of gay marriage has changed significantly over time. What is also important is that we understand how public opinion toward gay marriage has changed. For the first time, just over half of the public favors same-sex marriage, while a little bit more than 42% oppose it. In a similar vein, the number of people who know gays or lesbians has risen dramatically. The number of people who have gay acquaintances has risen dramatically. The number of television shows, think about Glee, depicting gay students, gay couples, has risen dramatically. And as a result of this, opposition to gay marriage, although it remains substantial, has significantly decreased. The biggest criteria in opposing gay marriage still remains religious beliefs. They continue to be a major factor in opposition to gay marriage. For instance, those who view homosexual behavior as a sin, and these are about 45% of the public, overwhelmingly oppose gay marriage. The link below here, again you can click this at your own leisure, is a more detailed analysis of how public opinion toward gay marriage has changed. And you will really see dramatic changes and a dramatic decrease in the opposition toward gay marriage. Let me introduce another legal parallel here, and that is the politics of interracial marriage. It took until 1967, think about it, not too long ago, for the Supreme Court to strike down all laws, state laws, prohibiting interracial marriage. Prior to 1967, interracial marriage was unconstitutional in many southern states. Take the case of Mildred and Richard Loving. He's white, she's black, an interracial couple who got married in Washington, D.C. They could not get married in their home state, Virginia, because Virginia had a law banning interracial marriages. They returned from Washington, D.C. with a valid marriage license, and based on an anonymous tip, local police raided their home at night, hoping to find them having sex, which was also a crime according to Virginia law, find the couple quietly sleeping in their bed, showing the officers their valid marriage license from Washington, D.C. In response to this, they get arrested for having violated Virginia's law prohibiting gay marriage and are charged of cohabiting as man and wife against the peace and dignity of the Commonwealth. The judge, the state court judge, who sentenced them, actually brought up the following argument. Look at the quote here. Almighty God created the races, white, black, yellow, Malay, it's brown, and red, and he placed them on separate continents. And but for the interference with his arrangement, there would be no cause for such marriages. The fact that he separated the races shows that he did not intend for the races to mix. So here, really a religious argument. God created separate races, and he does not want the races to mix. You might say, what happened to the First Amendment, the separation of church and state? And yes, you would have a point. But as we actually will see in tomorrow's lecture and material, courts make decisions based on their own values, and this was how this particular judge in the Virginia court thought about interracial marriages. The Lovings plead guilty and were sentenced to 1 year in prison. Think about it, 1 year in prison because a white man married a black woman. The judge offered to suspend the sentence for 25 years on the condition that the couple leave the state of Virginia and do not return for 25 years. They did so. They moved to Washington, D.C. Mildred Loving continues to be rather upset about not being able to live in Virginia, not surprisingly, and she actually begs the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, to take on her case. ACLU lawyers eventually do so. They're able to persuade the Supreme Court to take on this case, and finally, in 1967, the court declares, finally, that marriage is one of the basic civil rights of man, fundamental to our existence and survival. To deny this freedom to one set of couples, but grant it to another set of couples, same race couples, violates the heart of the 14th Amendment. So it took until 1967 for all state laws prohibiting interracial marriages to be declared as unconstitutional by the court. Here you see a picture of Mildred and Richard Loving. Mildred Loving died just about 5 years ago. Her husband Richard died of a heart attack many, many years earlier? Do you see a parallel between interracial marriage and gay marriage? Is it possible that in the future the Supreme Court will decide, similar to Loving v. Virginia, that marriage is a fundamental right and it cannot be granted to some couples, heterosexual couples, and denied to other couples, gay couples? Possible, as we will discuss tomorrow, it really depends on the Supreme Court and the composition of the Supreme Court. In this lecture, we not only talked about federalism, but we also started to touch on gay rights. Please do not forget to watch the PBS documentary on Bayard Rustin, a Westchester native, often forgotten, and a major civil rights leader, an absolutely fascinating person. The documentary illustrates many issues we touched on in this course. First of all, his life and accomplishments are a great illustration of what Thurgood Marshall means when he talks about the living Constitution. Second, the documentary shows the slow evolution toward more equal treatment, and it shows that it took very strong organized movements to get there. Change never comes easily. It is typically brought about not by individuals, but by an organized group of people, a social movement. Lastly, it shows how Bayard Rustin's sexuality, Bayard Rustin was openly gay, was often used to hold him back and discredit his accomplishments, not only by whites, but also by his fellow fighters in the civil rights movement.